A few days ago, I started hearing faint scratching sounds coming from somewhere inside the walls of my house. Living deep in a remote forest, I searched the entire place, looking for any sign of a wild animal, but found nothing. And the noise was getting louder every day. 4 days later, I finally pinpointed the source. I was in the yard, focused on my woodworking as usual, when my saw snapped. I went down to the basement to find a spare. I hadn't been down there in years. Rummaging through the dusty toolbox, the sound that had been haunting me for days suddenly started up right behind me. My body froze. I spun around, shining my flashlight toward the noise, but there was nothing there. I walked to the wall, pressed my ear against it, and realized the sound was close, like something sharp scraping against the plaster. It was rhythmic, methodical, unlike any animal. A wave of terrifying possibilities washed over me, and I was too scared to stay. I quickly gathered my things, left the house, and called the police. I told them there was scratching in my basement wall, like something trying to get out. They said it was probably an animal and couldn't come out just for a noise. With no other choice, I left and spent the night at a nearby motel. The next day, filled with dread, I reluctantly returned home. After just one day, the house was in disarray, as if someone had broken in. The kitchen and living room were covered in mud, the refrigerator was wide open and empty, and footprints were everywhere. I grabbed a weapon and carefully descended into the basement. To my shock, there was a large hole in the basement wall. I shone my flashlight inside, but couldn't see how deep it went. Too afraid to investigate, I called the police again. They arrived shortly and searched the house. They found numerous fingerprints, but none were in any database. One officer estimated there had been 8 intruders, but even if they traced the prints, it wouldn't lead anywhere. He also mentioned the prints had a unique, strange shape. Shining a light into the hole, they said its depth was immeasurable and it was too dangerous to enter. They'd never seen anything like it and would need to organize a search team, but that would take time. They suggested I move out. But I've spent half my life in these woods, cutting trees and doing woodwork. I have nowhere else to go. Terrified but trapped, I decided to seal the hole and stay. After the police left, I boarded up the hole with thick planks, nailing them shut securely. The house fell silent, as if nothing had ever happened. For the next few days, the walls were quiet. After that, even the slightest noise would startle me. As time passed, the memory began to fade. A month later, I returned home from cutting trees and heard a strange noise from the basement again. But this sound was different, unlike anything I'd heard before. It sounded like a snake hissing. I drew my gun and cautiously opened the basement door. Suddenly, something leaped out and wrapped around my neck. It was a horrifying creature I couldn't identify. Its head was bulbous, with skin so transparent I could see all its veins. It looked vaguely human. It held me tight, looking down at me with a terrifying face. Its eyes had no black parts. Soon, several more of these creatures surrounded me. I lost consciousness. I woke up to pain from scrapes on my back. The creatures were grabbing my legs, dragging me underground. They emitted eerie hisses, their transparent bodies glowing with a faint green light in the darkness. The narrow underground passage gradually widened, enough for an adult to stand. Many more of these beings were gathered there. They crawled toward me, touching and prodding me, then lifted me and carried me deeper into the tunnels. I saw one creature sitting with its head bowed. It was clearly the weakest among them, its body wrinkled and hunched. It slowly lifted its head and looked at me. Its eyes were almost human, with faint, blurry black irises. It was the only one with them. When it saw me, its eyes widened. It made a strange noise and began speaking in a bizarre, incomprehensible language. "What did you say?" I asked. It mumbled again. The other creatures watched us, holding their breath. I needed to understand, my safety depended on it. I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened a voice translator, but it couldn't recognize the language. So I opened the recorder and captured its speech. The creature, mumbling its unknown language, finally let out a sharp hiss to the others. They all surged toward me and began kneeling, bowing their heads. What was happening? I was utterly confused. They brought me a pile of various insects, dead rodents, and tree roots, offering them to me. Were they sharing food? It was then I realized they meant no harm. I gestured that I wouldn't eat that. They seemed to understand, backing away for a moment before pushing a creature that looked female toward me, pressing her against me. She hissed, clinging tightly. Were they offering a mate? I had no interest. Horrified, I pushed her away, crying and begging them to let me go home. They then began leading me back through the tunnel. In the dark, guided only by their faint green glow, the journey was arduous. After countless twists and turns, I finally emerged from the hole in my basement. They let the female creature follow me out. She hissed, rushing forward. I scrambled out of the basement and locked the door. She began slamming against it, trying to break through. Helpless, I called the police again and explained the situation. They cautiously opened the basement door. The moment they did, the creature leaped out and clung to me. I screamed in panic. The police tried to pry it off, but it held tighter, biting my neck. Only when an officer struck its head hard with a baton did it finally release me. They dragged the creature out of the house. The moment sunlight touched its transparent skin, white smoke erupted. It burned black, dying in agony on the spot. From that day, my house was under investigation for a long time. Onlookers came frequently. The area was cordoned off with police tape. The dead creature was dissected for study. Under its transparent skin were organs similar to a human's, but it had no lungs. Instead, there were gill-like slits on its ribs. Experts theorized they survived underground by breathing through these gills. They also said the creature's vision had degenerated from the lack of light, hence the lack of irises, leaving them only able to vaguely perceive objects. I gave the police the audio recording from my phone. A team of linguists and experts analyzed the language. Surprisingly, it wasn't a modern language, but an ancient Native American tongue. Translated, it meant, "You are our first ancestor." We hid underground to survive a war, living there for generation after generation, for a very long time. If I die, no one will know this language anymore. Please, teach your language to these people. These beings were the descendants of indigenous people who fled underground to escape an unknown war roughly 3,000 years ago. Over that immense span of time, their bodies had adapted to the subterranean environment, becoming what they are now. Fearing social panic if their existence became known, the authorities classified the information. I signed a non-disclosure agreement, swearing not to reveal anything. I went to the hospital to have my wounds stitched and received regular treatment. The wounds nearly healed, and the nightmare-like memory began to fade. One day, looking in the mirror at the scar on my neck, the memory of the experience flooded back. As I reflected on my survival, I noticed strange holes on my ribs. I leaned closer, shocked to see patches of my skin had become transparent, revealing blue veins beneath. I went to the hospital immediately. All the doctors gathered, examining my body like I was an alien. They were stunned, diagnosing me with a rare disease they'd never seen before. It was then I realized, after being bitten, my body was slowly changing. Was I becoming like them? I returned home, hiding away in worry and pain. A long time passed before I gathered the courage to look in the mirror again. The black irises of my eyes had faded. And because my skin was turning transparent, exposure to ultraviolet light caused searing pain. Now, my body can no longer handle cutting trees or working in the yard. An instinct tells me my only chance to survive is to go back underground through the hole in the basement. So I broke open the sealed basement door and started drilling into the hole the police had filled with concrete. After drilling for a week straight, someone knocked on my door. I ignored it, focused only on opening the passage. As I finally squeezed into the hole, I heard voices from outside. "Hello? We're the police. Please open the door. We received your medical records from the hospital. We heard about the physical changes you're undergoing. Are you all right?" I ignored the police, crawling deeper into the hole.